So good morning in France and good afternoon in Singapore. So my name is Anne-Camille and I'm a Business Development Manager Agrotech at the French Chamber of Commerce. And I also work for the team France Export at the French Chamber. So I'm very happy to be with you today. So I will just make a brief introduction. So today we are happy also to have Yan Ho from EDV, which is a regional director from working for Europe. Hello. We also have Emmanuel Bucaille, CEO of Pure Active Water. So thanks for being here too. And we have also Theodore Peng, who is working for Creadev in investment and development manager. So So I will start the presentation. First, I will present the French Chamber of Commerce. I will talk about our strong business community here at the French Chamber, the support we give to the French company, and also our French pavilion for the Agri Food Tech Expo. And after I will let speak Yan, then Emmanuel, and then Theodore. So thank you. So the French Chamber of Commerce was created in 1979. So it's a strong worldwide network, and it's a non-profit association. So we organize more than 200 events per year. So it's like average of 2 or 3 events per day. So you can see how active we are in Singapore. We also foster collaboration between business companies between France and Singapore. We also have a strong membership categories in many sectors. We are also like networking event, committee meeting, training. So our mission is really to promote and bring together businesses between France and Singapore, and we need to enhance the collaboration. So last but not least, we also have a team France Export, which is our goal to really help French companies to come in Singapore, to find the right business partner and to find the right event and the right partner here in Singapore. So I will go on the next slide. So among all of our committees, we have 18 committees. One of them is like Agri Food. So we have 18, one Agri Food, and one is, so it's linked between Agri Food, biotechnology, bioenergy, so farming, and really all the new innovation that is really enhanced in Singapore now, and like the traceability, smart food. So it's a very dynamic and interesting committee. And this committee is also in partnership with the Conseiller of Commerce Extérieur, which is a French foreign trade advisor. So as I said, we have many members. So we have more than 600 members, so in many various sectors. So for instance, we have some issues today with for instance, we have like Biomérieux, Airbus, Sanofi, so really big French company. And so there is a mix of large corporate, but also SME, so small, medium enterprise, and also some startup, and we have also a few of individual members. So in a nutshell, as we can say that the French Chamber of Commerce provide a full range of services and support company at every stage on their development. So this includes business opportunity, market research, and and assistant to all the visa, also like networking, all the B2B meeting, all the provision and office spaces. So it's really like from companies in France interesting to coming to Singapore, but also a company directly in Singapore, and all the setup, all the event networking. We also try to create like a wide network and really like enhance all the experiences and all the events around the both communities. So as I say, I'm also working for the Team France Export. So the Team France Export is helping French companies to come in Singapore. And one of our main focus is to promote the French companies through some French pavilions. So for instance, we are currently working on a French pavilion for Agri Food Tech Expo Asia. So the first edition was in 2022, and we are now working on the second edition. So last year, we had a French pavilion that gathered a company, and the trade show gathered more than 6,000 attendees from 66 countries. There were also like many international and national country pavilion. There were like many companies, including the aquaculture and smart farming, food safety and security. So many interesting and innovative companies. So Agri-Food Tech is really the place to be. And we are happy to be working on the next edition. So here are the few pictures. So we also organize networking. So on this event, we also work with the Conseiller de Commerce Extérieur, the French trade advisor, and we had, as I said, 8 French companies from various sectors, some from farming, from environmental monitoring, from food tech, and you can see the name of the company that joined us, like Pure Active Water with Emmanuel today, and like Ubis, Fagos, Biosenor, so very great and interesting French company. And we were also working on this pavilion with our partner, Sinovivo Manageria. So we hope to see you around this year and on our networking too. So here is a few more pictures. So this trade show is also very interesting to meet people from Singapore, but also other regions. So you have like the capability to do like speaking opportunities, so networking, as I said. Like also we try to really gather like the action around our French pavilion. So there is also like we try to bring delegation to our booth and to really like put French company forward and like invite networking and bring a Singaporean actor meeting our companies. So for this year, so as I said, we are currently working on a pavilion. So this year, the Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia will be from the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. So we have now also a new design for our French pavilion. And so it's a really good exposure for all the company and a great way to discuss opportunities also with Singapore and the regions. And it's really the event of the year to not miss. There is also like plenty of events during this week in Singapore. So if you want to join us and choose friends and be part of our community and event, please let me know, and we will be happy to have all of you with us. So thanks for this short presentation, and sorry for all the issues with with the computers, the sound, and everything. So now I would be happy to let Yan explain EDB and her work, and I will come back to you later on the French Chamber. Thank you. So
thanks so much, Anne-Camille.
Thanks.
Hi everyone.
So
hi everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to those in Singapore. So my name is Yan. I'm just going to share my screen to share my slides. Just give me a moment. Okay, that works. Okay, yeah, so my name is Yan. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and thank you so much, FCCS, for having us come to share around Singapore's initiatives in agri-food tech. So I am the Regional Director for Marketing based in London and overseeing our marketing activities across the UK and Europe. So today my presentation, I'll keep it short. So it's really about, what is the secret sauce to a world-class agri-food tech hub. And we'll be happy to take any questions later on. So just don't know if it's working. Okay, so basically, I can't see your show of hands, of course, and I'm assuming that some of you have gone to Singapore, some of you have not. For those of you who do not know us, Singapore is an island city-state in the heart of Southeast Asia, a region of more than 650 million mouths to feed, and a melting pot of cuisines, culture, and opportunities. I've been to France very frequently as part of my work. And of course, our cuisine is very different from French cuisine. Both are great, but the taste is extremely different. And I hope that, if you do go for the conference later on this year, you'll get to try some of our food as well. So we're so tiny that we have been often called the little red dots. So what is the little red dot, all about, right? And basically, of course, I asked ChatGPT, the newfangled thing of this year. So I asked ChatGPT, tell me a little bit about Singapore. And amongst all of the various descriptions it had, it said Singaporeans are obsessed with the food, to the point that they will queue for hours to get their hands on a plate of chicken rice or a bowl of laksa. If you ever want to win over a Singaporean, bring them some good food. So actually this particular phrase really caught my eye, and it really illustrates, the obsession that Singaporeans have with food. So it is said that, our two national hobbies are eating and queuing. So I guess, this amalgamates them. Okay, a little bit more about, my organization, the Singapore Economic Development Board, or EDB for short. In a nutshell, you can think of us as Singapore's architects, and a large part of our role is to facilitate and support global companies that undertake manufacturing, research, innovation, and headquarter activities in Singapore. So we're part of the Singapore government, and all of the different services that we provide, such as provision of information, connections, and where relevant, some of our incentives are all, of course, complementary. So I'm sure all of you have heard the 30 by 30 by now, and the FCCS team also mentioned it in their slides. So basically, Singapore has a goal of increasing our food production to 30% of nutritional needs by 2030. When we first started this vision in 2019, basically, food farms only occupied 1% of our total land use, and we imported more than 90% of our nutritional needs. And when we set out the vision, we wanted to increase that by threefold, but still maintain, the amount of resources that we're going to put in. Still 1% of total land use, and the number of rows that we're going to put in is not that much more. It's just slightly over two times. So how are we going to, work within our constraints and yet significantly increase the amount of food that we're going to produce locally? So basically, we plan to transform our agri-food industry into one that is highly productive and employs climate-resistant, resource-efficient, and sustainable technologies. Technology is really the key enabler to help farms grow more with less. So basically, Singapore is highly urbanized and also land scarce. So we had to think about how are we going to maximize our farming space and find new plots. Since 2017, land has been leased in two main districts in the northern edge of the city. They're called Lim Chu Kang and Sungai Tengah, to large-scale commercial farm projects. But it hasn't stopped there. The idea of growing food in the more urban spaces of Singapore has emerged, from car park rooftops to reused outdoor spaces to retrofitted building interiors and viaducts. What you see in the middle picture here is Netatech. It's a vertical farm which is attached to the side of a residential block. It's a net zero farm that uses harvested rainwater and micro-drop technology to grow leafy vegetables. So we're trying to use every single part of the country that we can find in order to grow food. And most people don't know, actually, we have many sea-based farms. So we have 100 sea-based farms. We also have inland farms. Singapore's aquaculture mainly focuses on higher priced fish such as barramundi, which is also known as the Asian sea bass and shrimp. A handful of land-based farms actually grow freshwater fishes such as tilapia. So the aquaculture sector is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Latest generation closed containment systems in Singapore incorporates features such as highly automated or purpose-built floating structures. And I'll speak more about Aqua Easy later. And last but not least, I'm sure many of you have already heard of, in the space of alternative proteins, Singapore's had notable developments, especially in the regulatory approval space. We were first in the world and continue to maintain that leadership position in terms of getting cell cultured proteins approved for sale to consumers. So some of, I think, we've celebrated many milestones since embarking on our 30 by 30 journey. We've seen a lot of agri-food tech startups innovate, traditional corporates that have ventured successfully into the space, such as Bosch and Aqua Easy. And we now have investors who actually have dedicated teams and resources to serve the needs of agri-food tech startups. So people ask, right, like what are we doing and what's kind of like our recipe to sustainable, healthy, tasty food and working within the constraints that we have as well. And it's really three main parts to this recipe. The first one is about supporting innovation to flourish. Second one is about smoothing supply chain and creating an enabling environment for new products to be launched, but not just in Singapore, but in the region. So market access is also something that we work very hard on. So to deep dive a little bit, for the first ingredients, beyond our established research institutes and clusters, we have dedicated close to 300 million in funding for the Singapore Food Story R&D program, specifically for key agri-food tech areas such as sustainable urban food production and advanced biotech-based proteins. There are grant calls, and continuously they call for new problem statements to be addressed, and it accords winning startups, not just startups from Singapore, but startups around the world, funding and access to networks. So the next part is also about our existing ecosystem that supports the entire food manufacturing, food development industry. We are home to all 5 of the world's largest F&F flavors and fragrances companies, as well as FMCG giants such as Unilever and P&G, which has substantial presence in Singapore. So these corporates are very keen to partner startups and other corporates for new food product development. So one example was the Givaudan Baller collaboration that opened a protein innovation center in Singapore about 2 years ago. It combined the pilot technology of Burler's extrusion and the processing equipment with Givaudan's new culinary facilities and its world-leading expertise in flavor, taste, ingredient, and product development. The next ingredient is actually, helping to take innovative products from lab to table. And Singapore has built shared facilities and infrastructures to help to de-risk and lower the risk of pilot production. So taking the example of alternative proteins, you can see that we have certain shared facilities here, one of which is the Food Tech Innovation Center by Temasek and A-Star. It provides ready-built shared innovation equipment and space that supports pilot scale extrusion and fermentation. Startups and corporates can also access private sector contract manufacturers and service providers like Esco Ester and SG Protein for both pilots and commercial scale production. And in the coming months, we are preparing to launch the highly anticipated 18-hectare agri-food innovation park that will bring together players across the ecosystem for a lot more synergies. And finally, the last ingredient to our recipe is kind of the wider region that Singapore is based in, right? So food spending in Asia is actually expected to double between 2019 and 2030 and hit 8 trillion. So while China, of course, remains the largest food market, India and Southeast Asia is where the increase would be sharpest. So the made in Singapore food is often viewed by consumers as of very high food safety and quality standards. And lastly, Singapore is a melting pot of cultures with world-class food scene all the way from street food, hawker food to fine dining. So it's a very good test bed for products that you might want to launch in various markets in the region. And the last one is, of course, kind of, the backbone of exporting, and that's our slew of free trade agreements. We have more than 25 FTAs that completely reduces or removes tariffs when exported from Singapore. So I just wanted to show, I've spoken about three key ingredients in this recipe. Now I kind of want to use an example to show you what the end dishes might look like. First, it is Eat Just Good Meat. In 2020, they received the first in-world regulatory approval that I mentioned. And since then, they have really grown strength to strength with their partner, Esco Ester, receiving the license to process cell culture proteins. It just also secured another regulatory approval around serum-free media production in Singapore. So Good Meat is really on its ways to your table. I spoke also about Aqua Easy, and it really illustrates that corporates here also are leveraging the strong wave of opportunity in agri-food tech. And one such corporate was Bosch, which spun out a startup called Aqua Easy, focused on using Bosch's strength in sensor technologies and software to actually improve the yield and the quality of shrimp farming. So basically, startups can also look forward to working a lot with the corporates here in Singapore on the various new businesses that they might want to build. So if you're ready to innovate and scale your agri-food tech solutions in Singapore, do consider, of course, going to the conference, setting up with the French Chamber of Commerce at the conference. It's actually part of the Singapore International Agri-Food Tech Week later on this year. And lastly, we are launching our Agri-Food Tech 2023 guidebook. It will contain useful links around the various types of grants, players that you might want to contact. So it's going to launch soon. Please indicate your interest by scanning the QR code, and you'll be one of the first to get a copy of the guidebook when it launches. So, I started this presentation talking about the secret sauce, right, around building an agri-food tech hub. So wait, what's the secret sauce? I need to conclude. And basically, it's you. I know this sounds really cheesy, but it really is. So agri-food tech innovators, who join Singapore in our journey to becoming a global hub for agri-food tech solutions, you are the ones who are bringing the innovation to the table. We are just enabling and facilitating that to help you to scale quickly. So let's work together to sustainably feed Singapore and other urban cities globally together. Yep, so that's all. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne, for this great presentation and putting forward all the innovative projects coming in Singapore. So talking about a great project, I would like to give the mic to Emmanuel Bicay, CEO of Pure Active Water. So thank you again, and you can share your screen now, and thank you. Emmanuel, we can't hear you. Sorry.
Now you should hear me.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hi. So yeah, I may be a good example of what you can do in Singapore, as I'm French, and as I'm a CEO of Singaporean startup, and presenting a French patented system. So it's really maybe a good example of what we can do in Singapore, even if you're not Singaporean. And our company, I settled our company in 2016. I've been living in Singapore for more than 15 years in two times. First time I arrived in 2006. Left in 2013, came back after Hong Kong, Zurich. Before that, I was in London. So yeah, I'm a little bird going from one country to another one. But I think the longest time I spent was in Singapore. So might be because it's good. So we decided to settle this company in Singapore because for many reasons, honestly. The first one is Singapore is a good hub for Asia. That's true. And also because Singapore has a real knowledge in water treatment and in high-tech technology and innovation. So it makes sense for us, even where we were living in Hong Kong, to settle the company in Singapore. We really decided to do so. And from that, we have this technology coming from France, who treat, which is based on electrolysis, but it's not a normal electrolysis. It's an electrolysis without any salt. So we managed to kill all the bacteria and the virus in the water without any addition. So chemical free, very less energy, and a lot of advantages, especially for agri-food, where now the big challenge is how to secure your food without using too much chemical. And we are at the point of the development of this industry where it's really a challenge. As Europe now decided, and it will be followed soon by Japan and Singapore, maybe the US, we'll see, but decided to lower the amount of chlorate and perchlorate you are allowed to have in your food. This chlorate and perchlorate on the subproduct coming from the chlorine treatment when you have to disinfect your food just before packing. And this is a big issue. So that's where we have a big part to play in Asia with our technology. So our technology is quite simple, as I will just go quickly just for you to understand what we are doing. It's just an electrode. So coming from, sorry, why it doesn't work? I don't know why. My little video doesn't work, never mind. So this little pipe, as you can see, have electrode, and when the water goes through, the bacteria are killed by the electric field, and the difference of pH, that is temporary, destabilize the membrane of the bacteria. So the good thing is very less energy. Oh, this is, sorry. Yeah, this is a comparison. So where we are situated compared to the other technology. So we are as efficient as reverse osmosis in terms or ultrafiltration in terms of bacteriology, but far less consumer of energy. And we have no loss of mineral or no loss of water like the other technology. So if we wanted to just conclude on the benefit of this technique, it's a high efficiency on the microbiome. When I say high, meaning when you are using chlorine at 100 ppm or even 50 ppm, you can use our technology at 10 times less concentration. We have a long-lasting effect. The natural oxidant that we generate in the water. It's okay, Emmanuel. Stay in the water for more than 2 weeks. Secure your network from the biofilm, secure your water tank as well. It's easy to install because it's just at the entrance of your water before your water tank and all your network. And it's safe for humans, for animals as well. Totally sustainable, chemical free, less energy, less consumption of water as well. So we can help all the food and beverage industry and all the agri-food as well for all the sustainability goal. The first one is to get rid of the chlorine. I know that chlorine is cheap, widely used, but we know also that now most of the bacteria are resistant. So we have to use more and more chlorine, which is quite bad for the food, quite bad also for your waste water, because all this chlorine has to be eliminated somewhere. We process on site, so we reduce totally your carbon footprint. You don't have to order any more chemical. We are 10 times less consumer of energy compared to RO. Singapore is using a lot of reverse osmosis because we have to desalinate our water to be able to import less water. It was one of the big targets of Singapore as well. Before the food, it was the water to be independent. So, and it's great. I mean, now 80% of the water of Singapore is made in Singapore. So it's quite good. The good thing also is to save water, and RO consume, you have like a 30% of water discharge. So we don't have any discharge. The amount of water you are treated, the amount you have at the end. And we have real monitoring on our system that allow you to totally secure your system in real time from your office. This is it. This is our sexy product, a nice electrode and a skid. So the electrode are made in France. The control panel, all the electronic are made in Europe as well, in Spain. And what we do in Singapore, we design all the skids. We design and implement all the solution, because everything is made to measure for the clients. So first we analyze what are the issues in terms of water or development, and we propose a full treatment plant for them. So what did we do in Singapore? So this is a kind of installation. What are our applications? So first, the food industry, definitely, in terms of disinfection. So when we recycling our water many times inside the electrode, we increase the amount of natural oxidant we are generated, and we are no more potable water, we are disinfection. So that's where we replace the chlorine in all the industry. But we can also generate potable water, and we are on that useful in the sector of livestock. For we have many installation in a chicken farm and a pig farm, where when you give secure water to your animal, you have a better growing, you have less antibiotics. So again, more sustainable industry. So this is of course, hospitality to secure in the kitchen of all the restaurant or the hotel, the full network. So this is where we are active. And so let's say, what did we do in Singapore? So for water potabilization and irrigation, we had a very big project before the COVID for the 30-30 grant. We have signed in 2019 a MOU with IFI, which is a Singaporean company that is doing indoor farm, and we win at that time with them one of the 30-30 grant to promote the first mega indoor farm in Singapore. So it's in a GTC building. It's huge. It has been implemented last year. It's running and producing right now greeny leaf, small tomatoes, small radish. And we are treating the water over there for irrigation. And also we are doing on the processing area, we are disinfecting the water to clean the harvesting plant. So because they are not using aquaponic system, it's not hydroponic culture. This vertical farm is with soil, so they need to clean the harvesting plant after all. So on that, we had also a big collaboration with Republic Poly. And right now we are working with them on 2 other protocols for the aqua farming to see the impact of our water on the growing of the fish and the protection of the fish in the fish farm, as they have a lot of disease and it's a little bit complex to balance the water on aqua farming. So we work also with Republic Poly. We have settled 2 protocols with them They are not starting yet, but normally in September, we will, with a new bench of students, we will settle 2 studies. So one on the aquaculture with some fishes, and the other one will be in hydroponic vertical farm to protect the plant and to remove the algae, which is a little bit of concern, especially in Singapore when we have a high level of temperature and a lot of humidity. So really working for us in Singapore, it's a perfect lab test, because the weather is like a real incubator in a lab. You have all what the bacteria likes, the humidity and the hot temperature. It's perfect for the growing of the bacteria. So this is another project that we had in Africa, but I just want to show you this because we are working on the same project in Singapore with another layer hen farm. So I hope this project will take place. We will see. The second big installation that we have made so far in the region was for the disinfection, and this disinfection was made in Dole in Philippines. So we first ran a pilot with them during COVID, during 1.5 years, to try to remove totally the chlorine in the process of disinfection of the pineapple, and we managed to have very good result. In terms of course, chemical-free, but also improving productivity, speed to market as well, comply with European legislation. That was the first objective of this study. And then after this pilot, we managed to do the installation last year. So with 112 electrodes in total, so in 2 areas, for the chunk fruits and also from the cylinder. Another good example of what we can obtain in Singapore as a startup, you can see here, this young lady is doing some troubleshooting and some control on our devices, on our skid, and she is wearing augmented realities Google. So this augmented realities Google is part of our maintenance and troubleshooting help support for our client. And we were able to buy this thanks to a grant of Singapore for automotion and to help the young company to be able to have this kind of technology. So this is another good thing that you can find in Singapore. Is a lot of support, as Yang said. It's really important, and it's real. I mean, so our milestone was we settled the company in 1916, but the product was not yet ready. So we really started to show it to some clients and prospects in 2018. Of course, COVID make a big break on our development, but now we have a lot of new projects in Philippines, in Indonesia, in Thailand as well, and Vietnam. So either for a fish farm, a shrimp farm, chicken farm, pig farm for the livestock, and on industry for slaughterhouse for cleaning the meat or the fish or the veggies and the fruits. So visibility in Singapore, there is a lot of events. So this is, for example, when we win the 30-30 grant and we have our pilot fabricated in Singapore, we have the chance to have the Minister of Sustainability that came to see Hi-Fi, and she discovered our pilot just before it was sent to Philippines for the Dole pilot. So another good advantage of Singapore, I mean, the ministers are really hands-on. They don't stay in the office. They really wanted to understand what is going on, and they're really in charge and implicated of all the development of the industry. So this is another big event, which is IFOST, who is more academic than the Agri-Food, but it was just 1 week after the Agri-Food last year, when you have this take place normally once a year. Every it's for all the people that works in research in food, to share their point of view and their research. And last year it was all by Singapore, so we were there as well with another minister. And also we were part of the Singapore International Week last year, but also this year, as we were selected as a startup by Imagine H2O, an accelerator that takes place in Singapore, very active as well. And we were in the Agri-Food with a French pavilion, but also with our own booth. And next year, I already signed last month. So next year I will be there as well. I mean, this year. And I choose Anne-Camille a booth just in front of the Chambre de Commerce. So I will be again very near you. we can share again a lot of things. So last week it was the Singapore Water Week, but the smaller version, because normally it's a big event 1 year on two. And we were here talking about our pilot in Philippines, and how a startup can be really promoted and have a big income in Singapore. So this is it. Our goal, a lot of goal, of course, to develop in Asia. That's it.
Thank you so much.
I've been already too long. Sorry, Theodore.
But thank you so much. You're a great example of opportunities between France and Singapore. So we are happy for all your exciting project coming. So thank you so much. And we will now give the mic to Theodore Pont from CreaDev. So thanks for sharing your presentation, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here. Good afternoon or good morning to attendees of this session. My name is Theodore. I'm Investment and Development Manager at CreaDev, and I had the privilege to be the first employee for CreaDev in Singapore. And before I jump into the presentation proper, I have to give an official disclaimer that this presentation does not constitute professional investment advice. All views are mine and mine alone. So who's CreaDev, right? So it's a French investment firm backed by the Moulier family from France. It's a family of 6 generations now. We are an impact-driven investor in agri-food startups at the growth stage. And now this normally means for us Series B and beyond. And we actually look for not just impact, but also financial returns, right? It's always that delicate balance to negotiate between impact and financial returns. CreaDev has been around since 2002 as an evergreen investment company. So there is no explicit pressure to exit investments within a 5 or 7 year horizon. And our ambition is to help impactful companies to scale up and become what we call champions in their respective sectors. We invest about 10 million euros or US dollar per new startup. And we have offices in 4 continents, with HQ being in France. We've got an office in Kenya, in the US, and last but not least, in Singapore. Right, so the Moulier family have operating businesses spanning many countries in the world. Much of it is concentrated in Europe, especially France. In Singapore, there's Decathlon, which is where we share an office with, but other businesses include Auchan, supermarkets, Luqua Mela, DIY supplies, and so on. At CreaDev, our agri-food focus is on the following 3 verticals, the first of which is crops and alternative proteins. So by crops, we mean really upstream. We can talk about agri-tech to improve crop quality, crop quantity, for example. When we talk about alternative proteins, it can be anything like plant-based to fermentation or even cultivated meats if it meets our investment criteria. The second vertical will be aquaculture, where we see this as an up-and-coming kind of industry to feed the growing population. And aquaculture, because it has less carbon footprint compared to red meat farming, for example. And the last segment will be consumer food services, where we're talking about distribution, we're talking about more consumer-facing kind of products and services, which help to improve food access at an affordable price point. So in Asia, we're going to be focusing on the ASEAN region. Now, just a bit of background, CREDEF, we used to be in China, but the center of gravity has shifted for us internally from China to Southeast Asia with the base from Singapore, right? At this Singapore vantage point looking out at the region. So just a bit about ASEAN. It's a combination, it's an alliance of 10 member states: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and of course, Vietnam. Some quick fire statistics here. We had a record year in 2021, $25 billion raised by startups. So it's a very interesting startup and VC kind of ecosystem in this region. Collectively, this was the 3rd largest trading partner of the EU, yeah? And this is behind the US and behind China. And as an economy, collectively, again, it's the 5th largest economy in the world. Most of the population here is young, under 30 years old. And this means different production and consumption preferences, maybe more digitally savvy, more willing to buy online. In terms of information consumption and dissemination, also quite different from many other countries in the world. And huge market potential. I think Yan mentioned in her presentation just now, more than 650, more than 660 million consumers here, which is a huge market for food and retail. All right, here are some selected themes that we wanted to highlight. These are by no means exhaustive, but we have tried to segment them into both supply side and the demand side for some of the ASEAN countries we see. All right, so on the supply side, from a top-down kind of perspective, we see supportive domestic policies to grow agri and food. This is in the form of government support for domestically produced food supplies. This could be either for food security, such as in the case of Singapore, and or economic growth, right? Which is what we see from Brunei, where they are pursuing food diversification for both economic growth and food security. And then on the bottom-up kind of thrust, there is increasing urbanization, which puts pressure on farming resources because farm labor is getting increasingly scarce. Vietnam, for example, people leaving the Mekong River Delta for other opportunities elsewhere. Now, if you move to the right on the demand side, again, from the top-down kind of view, there are increasing regulatory kind of constraints on what we call the unhealthy kind of foods, like salt, like sugar. Thailand has been proposing a tax on salt for a few years now. Singapore has recently introduced an advertising ban on high sugar drinks, and we haven't even talked about bans on trans fat or bans on or taxes on sugar, which have been implemented in some of the ASEAN countries already. From a more bottom-up perspective, we are seeing income-driven consumption of more and more protein, like dairy protein, meat protein, and we foresee also an increasing spillover into the plant-based protein fields as incomes increase and people crave for proteins as the kind of aspirational food. And then now it's probably the most exciting slide I have in this presentation, where we do some quick fire comments on some of the ASEAN countries, how we see them. Again, by no means is this exhaustive. And I think the key message here to take away is that not all the opportunities here will be suitable for everyone. It may not even be suitable for CREDEF, but it's just to give a quick, not a fully representative view of some of these countries here. So if you're ready, we jump into them, starting from Myanmar. We're not going to, as CREDEF, we're not prioritizing Myanmar immediately due to recent, in the political situation evolution in the last couple of years. Next is Cambodia. very agricultural nation with about 1/4 of the GDP from agriculture, produces a lot of ASEAN's cashew and rice. Potentially interesting areas in food processing and value-added products to help Cambodia go up the value chain and export more value-added products. In Vietnam, we see a lot of activity in agriculture and actually also aquaculture, 40% of the jobs in these areas. And the country is the top 1 or top 5 producer for certain aquaculture species like the pangasius, catfish, or shrimp. We contrast that with the declining number of farmers in a key agricultural region, which I mentioned in an earlier slide. So this opens up opportunities for agri-tech to improve crop yield in the absence of enough farm labor, potentially something that could be supported by corporates from abroad or startups grown domestically. And obviously also aquaculture is an interesting area for Vietnam. Next, Brunei, they've got the Wawasan Brunei 2035 Master Plan, or the Vision Brunei Master Plan, which calls for food diversification away from the traditional oil and gas industry, which Vietnam is very, very rich in. So on one hand, it's about growth. On the other hand, it's about food security. Interesting areas in food production, shrimp farming, where it's tried and tested, seaweed farming. It's been said that the warm waters of Brunei help seaweed to grow faster as compared to the colder waters in Japan at about double the speed. And also fish processing capabilities, where Brunei currently imports a lot of processed fish for the domestic market. So there's opportunities to do it internally. In Malaysia, this is the world's second largest palm oil producer. They've also got a halal industry master plan 2030, being a predominantly Muslim nation. We see interesting activities here in agri-tech, especially for palm oil, rubber, obviously opportunities for food manufacturing in the halal supply chain, and also valorization of the lots of palm oil waste, the solid waste, and also the palm oil meal effluent kind of waste that the mills discharge. Now we move over to the right on Thailand. We talked about sugar tax, proposed salt tax, also a very concentrated scene of major agri and food kind of corporates owned by a few wealthy families. These corporates have very dynamic tie-ups with startups. So it's a very interesting startup collaboration ecosystem, whether it's in terms of route to market, in terms of doing pilots, or even in terms of raising investments. Thailand is a very innovative place to be. And potentially also sodium substitutes once the kind of salt tax kicks in. We move on next to Laos, also a very agricultural nation. 72% of the workforce is in agriculture. China is making inroads in recent years with billions of dollars of investments. Even for a single project, it could be more than 5-6 billion per project. We see some bright spots in sustainable coffee. This has been supported by the agency of France in northern Laos for some years now, where the climate is suitable for coffee planting and there is a market for coffee in the EU. And moving on to Philippines, it's the world's one of the world's leading producers of tropical fruits like pineapple, bananas. They've got a ban on trans fat very recently. So there are different movements for agriculture and for food. Something interesting to consider would be food distribution. Cracking the food supply chain would be meaningful for the Philippines, given that it has thousands of, from what I checked, 2,000 inhabited islands out of more than 7,000 in total. So food distribution is always a field that poses challenges, but I guess also interesting opportunities there. Bringing food at the right price point in the right formats to the consumers of the Philippines. As well as food and staples cultivation. Right. We move on to the second last one, Indonesia, which is the world's largest palm oil producer, ahead of Malaysia. It's the world's largest archipelago nation, which means it's very spread out. One source tells me that from end to end in Indonesia is the distance from Brittany in the west of France to the east coast of the US. I'll let you check that. This is the second largest aquaculture producer in the world, the fourth largest population behind China, India, and the US. So it's the next frontier for many corporates. And also represents, this fourth largest population in the world represents more than half of the GDP of Indonesia, right? So this is a significant market that we're talking about when aggregated together. Definitely interesting areas in agri-tech, in aquaculture, where the country minted its first aquaculture unicorn in recent months. Food distribution, for sure, something that corporates and startups have been trying to crack for quite a while now, given the diverse, the very spread out nature of the country. And also digital economy, of course, where we see the rise of e-commerce following the success of local e-commerce startups. So people are getting more and more familiar with online banking, online shopping, and this means generating credit scores potentially. It could also mean helping farmers to access easier and more affordable sources of credit. Last but not least, of course, is Singapore, my home country. Yan talked about the 30 by 30 food sufficiency goals. Emmanuel benefited from the grant last year. It's also the first country in the world to approve cultivated meat sales, so I won't belabor the point, but interesting areas in food R&D, high-tech food manufacturing, and it's always a good base to access the ASEAN markets from here, not just because of the proximity, but also because of the talent base, because of the corporate governance. It's just generally a good place to live and do business. And we also noticed that a lot of corporates, but also a lot of startups who, even though they are active in other countries, they actually have their corporate headquarters registered in Singapore. Okay, so I leave you on this slide. Union fait la force. With unity brings strength. Now, European and French companies are have strong innovative ideas, great execution capabilities, and great brand recognition. And on the other hand, ASEAN economies bring lots of consumption potential, and on the supply side, bring a lot of a talented labor force at an affordable kind of wage structure, good working environments here. So it's a very powerful combination between Europe and ASEAN. And I believe together we can unlock a lot of new growth, collaborations, and impact for ASEAN and beyond. Thank you. And with that, I hand over the time to Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Theodore, for your interesting comments on the region and your great presentation. So, so thanks to all of you speakers and attendees. So we have one question. So we had also some question from Brigitte on asking if there is how many vertical farms and is it possible to visit them in Singapore. So thank you, Yan, for the answers. So Yan said that there are more than 30 vertical farms registered in Singapore. So you can have a look at them to see if you can book them and visit them also. And also we have another question from Steve. So we will send you the presentation so you can have all this great insight with you. So I also, I don't know if there is more questions to come, but I have also I can ask some question maybe to Emmanuel. So I wanted to know if it's easy to enter the market as maybe to start your company in Singapore and to enter the market, and if you have any barriers that you encounter, or if you can share
honestly, yeah. Honestly, Singapore government make it super easy. I mean, you can settle a company in 2 clicks on your computer. It's really easy. And for us, of course, I will be honest with the people coming from France, but it was easier even for us because I am a permanent resident from Singapore, as I was living here for a long time. So it makes the things really easy to settle. Having also finding office, you have I've got office in the startup hub, so very convenient, not so expensive. I mean, everything is settled to make your business easier to develop, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We also have a new question from Brigitte for Theodore. So Brigitte is asking, do do you have in mind a successful startup in future of food? Which criteria do you consider?
Okay, thank you, Bridget, for the question. But to be honest, right now, CREDEF, we are focusing on our existing portfolio companies, ensuring that they come out from the pandemic on a strong footing. So we've got one company already invested in Singapore, which was invested by our China team previously, and also a handful of startups, which are also based in China. So while we are not actively hunting for new investment opportunities today, I can share more broadly on the kind of, I guess, sweet spots that we would look at when we have more bandwidth. Yeah. So one would obviously be impact, the intention and the ability to create social and/or environmental impact. It could mean reducing the CO2 footprint of food systems. It could mean supporting underserved communities to access food where they couldn't previously access at an affordable price point. And revenues-wise, we look for a certain size. We also look for a path to profitability. So the company need not be, generating huge profits from day one, but we certainly look for a path to reaching that great outcome. So I think these are some of the key areas we looked at, yeah, in terms of impact and kind of commercial performance.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I also have a question for you, Yan. So I know that you're also EDB having a strong connection indirectly in Paris, and you've been present for Change Now a few weeks ago. Are you planning to go back to Paris soon, or to also show EDB to France and on the other side this time, or what's your next project with France coming up?
Yes, sure. So we have a lot of different activations around the region, and France and Paris is, of course, a very important city to us. Actually, right now in Europe, it's probably one of our largest offices. So to give a bit of context, we were at Change Now, which was in late May this year. We had a VIP lunch, we had a series of masterclasses, which actually we have the recording of. So if anyone is interested to listen to what are some of the experts, not EDB, talking about Singapore, but what the experts are talking about on various topics related to, say, for example, carbon services, decarbonization. There was even one on alternative proteins as well, from Esco Esther. So if anyone's interested in the recording, happy to share those. We'll be back in Paris for sure. We're always at big later on this year for BPA France. And we'll keep you guys updated on, what our kind of next plans. We're always happy to have French startups and entrepreneurs and corporates join us to learn a little bit more about Singapore and also get connected to our community of investors and our partners who can help you to get a little bit of an understanding of what Southeast Asia is like.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions from our attendees? I don't think so. And just one question maybe for Theodore. So would you say that the agri-food ecosystem here in Singapore is really open to small company and friendly and interested in the new innovation and agri-food? How would you all the small company that could enhance our French businesses?
Yes, and the short answer is of course. I think the government is putting in a lot of effort to engage companies, spending time with them to figure out solutions. That's one. I think apart from time, the more, also very tangibly is the money, setting up interesting grant schemes, incentive schemes, investment programs, like maybe even directly investing into some of these startups. We have the new ventures team with the Economic Development Board where Yan is from, working with corporates to spin off startups from ground up. So I think in terms of time, money, and in the backdrop of it all, right, a very positive kind of regulatory and governance environment makes this a pretty conducive place, I would say, for startups and corporates to launch their next interesting ventures in agri and food.
Thank you so much. So I think we don't have any more questions. So thank you so much for your time, for our speakers, Yan, Theodore, and Emmanuel. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for all our attendees, and we hope to see more French company and innovations coming in Singapore. And we will share presentation and our contact so you can reach us, and do not hesitate. And thank you so much to everybody, and have a good day or a good end of the day in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you, and Camille, for hosting.
Contact us.
Thank you so much.
If you need any
See you
more
soon.
info. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.